I'm not a traditional journalist per se, so I'm not out covering stories. I'm not, interviewing folks often. I'm, I guess, part of the behind the scenes crew. So a journalist today faces, I think, challenges mainly based on technology and delivery. I think that a reporter today has to know and understand more than just a keyboard and submitting stuff to an editor. They have to understand social media. They have to understand multimedia and pictures and video and sound. And they have to be very cognizant of their audience and how these things are getting delivered to them. So no longer is it printed on a piece of paper and in the middle of the night and thrown out on a stoop at 5 in the morning, and people open their paper and they read it the next day. Now, you're tweeting seconds after something happens without an editor. It's just going out to the world. So you have to become your own editor, your own fact checker. You're kind of putting yourself out there, which is exciting and great because you can instantly report the news like never before. But you're also putting yourself in harm's way a little bit because you are becoming like I said, your own fact checker, your own editor. You are relying on your own skills as a reporter, and you have to make these decisions in 140 characters or less if you're tweeting or on Facebook or whatnot. And so you have to kind of know a lot more about the technology in the industry. I think that the skill set for a journalist today is broader and more, there's more technology involved than I think there's ever been. And being a good storyteller has always been a key element of being a good journalist. So that hasn't changed. You still have to have, who, what, where, why, when, and why is this important, et cetera. Those things are always important and will remain important. But now to deliver that, you have to be timely, you have to be accurate, you have to be, a lot of people want to be out ahead of things before, anybody else. Well, that becomes a real challenge when, the guy down the street with his iPhone can become an iReporter for CNN, and he's going to scoop you on the tornado story because he's right there as it happens. There's people everywhere. So, bloggers can scoop you. People on the street can scoop, there's so much competition now, and it's so easy to disseminate information that how do you make yourself valid and important and relevant in this day and age with the technology that's there? When the model is set up, I believe, is still set up for this print model that just needs to change. And so if you're a journalist in this environment, what are the changes that need to get made? Are you doing that independently? Are you in your organization hoping that they make those changes? So those are all, how things are delivered. The speed of how things need to turn around is so fast, and it's so instant in a lot of cases that you have to have the ability to not only make quick judgments that are right, you also have to have the technical skill to make it happen. I feel like, as a person who works in the industry as a technician, that you're constantly facing quicker turnarounds and time crunches that you may or may not be able to accommodate, not because of your own skill set. Sometimes that is an issue, but and that is an issue to stay current, to know the latest upgrade in software in Avid, let's say, or an EVS or Pro Tools or whatever you're working with, or News Cutter. That happens, and if you're not actively engaged in the industry or have the means to get retrained or keep your skills fresh, you can get left behind really quick as a technician. So that's a challenge for everybody to be up to speed on what the latest and greatest thing is. There's people who probably knew MySpace like the back of their hand and really had a handle on MySpace. Well, if you went out now and claimed you were a MySpace expert, no one would care, but if you're an expert in Facebook marketing, well, then that would resonate with people. But what's the next thing? Is there another Twitter coming? What's the next Facebook that's going to be there? What's the next, Google that's going to give you search engine optimization? All these things are factors that journalists have to worry about. Whereas before, my perception is they went out, they covered stories, they wrote their stories, they submitted it to an editor, and they went and had a bourbon at the bar with their other buddies and traded war stories. You know, you can't do that now. Now you have to be a lot more integrated into the workflow. The advice I'd give to anybody, okay, journalists and otherwise, is repetitions. If I'm going to talk specifically to journalists, I'd say you got to get your hands on a camera, a still camera, video cameras. You got to learn some form of editing, whether it's Avid, whether it's Final Cut Pro. You got to learn the tools of multimedia.